even now are on their way to this committee to ensure that they are here safely, and for those of us who are here, that the business of the country is the focus. For these and other mercies we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Member Hilton. I think we have apologies for absence from Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, who is traveling on the nation's business and therefore unavoidably absent. I want to begin, first of all, by recognizing and thanking all of those who would have played a role in us getting to where we are today. It has taken monumental effort on the part of many, including the Department of Customs, Customs Administration Jamaica Agency, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Attorney General's Chambers, the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, and many other agencies of government, and in addition, members of the private sector with whom consultations were held. And it's important for us to recognize that without their contribution, we would not be here today. Before getting into some of the agenda items, I just thought it would be useful to provide an overview of the background to the bill and where we're hoping that this bill will lead, and the procedure that we have undertaken to get where we are today. But before doing so, let me just read into the record the members of this Joint Select Committee, which were appointed by resolution in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And the membership consists of myself as chairman, the Honorable Favour Williams, Mrs. Marlene Malahoo Fort, Dr. Norman Dunn, Mrs. Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Mark Golding, Mr. Anthony Hilton, Mr. Noel Arscott, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Senator Aubin Hill, Senator Donald Webby, Senator the Honorable K.D. Knight, Senator Dr. Andre Horton. The current Customs Act was enacted in 1941, and in February of 2017, Cabinet gave its approval for the issuing of draft instructions for new legislation to repeal and replace that Customs Act. A decision was made to repeal and replace the Customs Act so as to effect a modernization of customs practices and procedures. And the modernization is expected to bring benefits for the trading community and for the Jamaica Customs Agency by improving customs clearance and revenue collection processes, simplifying procedures for business, and providing a more efficient service delivery to the public. The Customs Act 2019 incorporates international best practices as evidenced in the revised Kyoto Convention, the Safe Framework of Standards, and the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, among other instruments, and the provisions are intended to achieve the following objectives. A, to facilitate the efficient processing of custom-related transactions. B, to encourage voluntary compliance with customs laws and procedures. C, to effectively support the implementation of automated system for customs data, Asikuda, world, and electronic payments. D, to improve and increase the collection of customs duties. E, to strengthen enforcement powers of the Commissioner of Customs. F, to strengthen the ability of the Jamaica Customs Agency to effectively protect Jamaica's borders. And G, to increase the ease with which the legislation is capable of being read and understood, among other objectives. The Act is divided into 15 parts and various subparts, and just summarize the key sort of areas. The first part is the preliminary part, and it's an introduction of modern terminology in accordance with international best practices. The Act introduces new terms that are, as I said, consistent with international best practice, and these terms and definitions have been widely adopted by several customs administrations. The use of internationally accepted terms and definitions will facilitate Jamaica's interaction with the international trading community and the implementation and effective operation of the Executor World System, as the latter enshrines and utilizes international accepted customs terms. The third part, or second part, is on customs control, and it's a review of reporting requirements. It is necessary to ensure that the reporting requirements in respect of vessels and aircrafts are consistent with international best practice and international commitments. This legislation has taken into account special considerations that are applicable to long-haul and short-haul flights and shipping. The proposed legislative rules will facilitate compliance with the World Customs Organization's safe framework of standards. The bill also introduces provisions to facilitate the access to the passenger name record, and as a corollary to the Advanced Passenger Information System provided for in the Customs Amendment Act of 2014. And access to this information will strengthen the Customs Agency's risk assessment mechanisms and is required to be grounded in the principal legislation. Part 5 deals with custom procedures and introduces modern language structures and some new procedures. Unlike the Customs Act of 1941, the provisions relating to customs procedures are detailed and structured in a coherent manner. The ability of persons to easily understand the legislation and their obligations thereunder is one facet of trade facilitation. And under this part, there is the introduction of new processing procedures, such as inward processing and outward processing. And other procedures include transit procedure, transshipment procedure, warehousing procedure, temporary admission procedure, and export procedure, and these can easily be identified. And you'll understand that some of these procedures are not contemplated under the existing Act. In Part 6, there's an expedited clearance and release of goods, and under this part, the legislative framework simplifies the clearance and release processes. And the simplified clearance and release processes are relevant to advancing logistics in Jamaica. And this will be based on a risk-based approach. So it will allow for increased volumes and increased contact and throughput and contact with the border agencies. Part 10 deals with authorizations, and it recognizes authorized economic operators and other certified statuses. An authorized economic operator may benefit from facilitation with regard to customs control, and the bill is seeking to establish other programs that will confer benefits on persons based on their record of compliance with customs laws. Part 11 deals with the provisions regarding rulings, determinations, and decisions, and it introduces advanced rulings, where advanced rulings facilitate trade by offering the trading community an opportunity to ascertain a priori customs treatment, the custom treatment that may be accorded to relevant goods prior to the importation of these goods. And this may be in relation to tariff classification, the origin of goods, or any other matter in respect of which the Commissioner considers it appropriate to issue such a ruling. This will offer predictability to the trading community and therefore enhance efficiency. In this part, there's an introduction of voluntary disclosure relief, and subject to certain terms and conditions, a person who voluntarily discloses a non-compliance and pays any outstanding duty and tax will not face penalties or prosecutions under the Act. And this realizes that non-compliance sometimes is inadvertent, many times. And as a part of doing business, this will happen from time to time. And the idea is not to enforce penalties if there is upfront acknowledgement. Part 12 deals with security for payment of duty and other amounts payable to the Commissioner. The security will be risk-based. Accordingly, the amount of security that a person will be required to provide will depend on their record of compliance and any risk factors related to the specific type of goods. So the rigidity in the system today will be relaxed and based on risk. It is also proposed that the Customs Agency will facilitate a wide range of security. It is envisaged that different forms of security, which may either be specific, i.e. security in relation to a specific consignment of goods, or general, which is security relation to any goods or any class or category of goods during a specified or indefinite period. The intention is to ease the burden faced by some members of the trading community regarding the obligation to provide bonds and bank guarantees when doing business with customs. Part 13 deals with enforcement. An important aspect of Jamaica's economic reform program has been the strengthening of the enforcement power and capacity of revenue agencies and authorities. The Customs Agency is a key revenue agency that faces the challenge of collecting outstanding duties and penalties imposed from time to time. In the circumstances, the provisions will strengthen the enforcement powers of the Commission of Customs and encourage all persons to comply with the customs laws. In preparing this bill, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Jamaica Customs Agency consulted with various ministries, departments, and agencies, in addition to private sector stakeholders. Some of those consultations would have included, I'll just list all of them, the Technical Committee for Legislative Review, established by the Cabinet Office, the Attorney General's Chambers, the Ministry of Justice, the Port Authority of Jamaica, the Ministry of Health, the Trade Board, MICAF, the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries and its agencies, the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, the Ministry of National Security, the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, the Revenue Protection Division, Tax Administration Jamaica, the Revenue Appeals Division, among other ministries, departments and agencies. And the private sector stakeholders consulted would have included the Shipping Association of Jamaica, the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, professional associations representing the Customs Brokers Fraternity, which includes Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association and the Society of Customs Brokers, the Automobile Dealers Association of Jamaica, the Used Car Dealers Association of Jamaica, the Jamaica Higglers, Vendors and Marketers Association, operators of public bonded warehouses and couriers. In addition, the Jamaica Customs agencies would have had consultation processes that included face-to-face meetings, public fora, workshops, online platforms, including a Facebook live stream, radio and print media notifications and articles. Presentations were held at the customs agency's at a parish level, including many parishes, St. Anne, Clarendon, etc., and engagements with chambers of commerce throughout Jamaica. And the Jamaica Customs Agency would have benefited from technical assistance that was obtained from the IMF through their regional outfit, the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center, CARTAC, as well as the World Bank. Several comments and recommendations were received during this process and all were carefully reviewed and considered, and many of them would have found their way in the various revisions that have led to the Customs Act 2019, which has been placed before the Joint Select Committee of Parliament, convened here for the first time, for its review. I would say that the Customs Act that you have before you has been very expensive to produce. Parliament doesn't have many copies of them, so we just ask members to walk with their copy when you come to the Joint Select Committee meetings. Okay, now just a discussion on some procedural matters. Would like to have the committee's agreement on the quorum that we'd established for this Joint Select Committee, and I'd propose that it is the chairman and 3 members, i.e. 4 members of the committee would constitute the quorum.
I would just add a rider to that. Of the 4 members, I think we should have at least 1 member of the opposition constituting that quorum. So if it's 3 plus 1, I'm suggesting that we have at least 1 member of the opposition of the 3.
I mean, do we recognize opposition when it comes to a committee of parliament. It's just, 4 members is just, as a practical matter, it's more likely that the government members, I think we're going to likely to have greater attendance from opposition members than from government members. That is most likely to happen. But I wouldn't want to, it's one committee. I don't want to separate us into opposition and government. I'd rather not.
The parliament is separated by opposition and government, whether we like it or not.
Yes, but this committee is one committee. This is one committee. In this committee, we all sit on one side.
It's one parliament.
Yeah, but in this committee, we sit on one side and we sit together. So I would ask for you to just, member, if you could just the likely practical outcome, as is the case today, is that we'll have, government members have to travel and so forth, and you've been there. The turnout is likely to be higher from opposition members anyway. But if we and the meeting dates will be posted in advance.
Would you be comfortable if you were presiding and only opposition members were present?
I've chaired a joint select committee now, in which I've had several meetings where only opposition members have been present, and myself as chairman. I've had several meetings
that was my question.
I would be comfortable, yes.
The reason for my proposing that is a very practical one, which is that at the end of the day, the whole idea of having a joint select committee is to ensure swifter passage or easier passage of the legislation, so that it assumes that all the component parts of the parliament have actively participated and are aware of the issue. So when it comes to passage and discussions in the parliament about the legislation, there is a deep and shared understanding about the process. So it's a very practical approach.
No, I understand that, but the meeting dates are published in advance, and the circulars are sent out, and reminders are sent out. We're going to end up having several meetings, and in the aim of efficiency, we want to be able to just get the meeting started once there are 4 members. Right? If it so turns out that some of the opposition members end up coming later, you don't want to delay the meeting until 11 o'clock, just in the interest of efficiency. You have my commitment that this is going to reflect our consolidated views. But over the life of this committee, in which we'll have several meetings, we'll deliberate for several hours, you're going to have changes in composition, and the likely outturn is going to be like we have today. And I just want to be able to move with alacrity and speed. I don't want.
Chairman, let me just, having proposed it, I did so in good faith and for practical reasons. However, I won't insist that be the case. I'd expect anyway that in the way we'll organize our business that there will be the representation and attendance. But thought I'd suggest that, but we can move on. We don't need to be detained by.
No, I'm going to show you something. If I support what Tony Hilton says, and we go to a vote as to whether we accept that or not, you know what the result is likely to be? Ponder on these things.
Yes, but I'm relying on the member here, and I thank you for your graciousness in that, and I intend to rely a lot on your input and your experience. And I think as a practical matter, you're going to see through the course of this committee that the contribution from the opposition is not only is going to be substantial, and it's welcome. And the spirit of what you're trying to achieve, I will work to achieve the spirit. You have my commitment on that.
Good morning. I'd like to support the chairman's point on this. I mean, we're a country that is.
I think we're there. Yeah, we're prolonging it. No, member, yeah. We're there. So I want to So I proposed it. Member, can you just second it, and then we'll have the vote with the proposed and the seconder. Take it that Member Hilton has seconded the proposal, and all in favor? All right. Thank you very much. Now I want to solicit the view of the committee. We would have spent the better part of a year in consultation, and I took the time to read into the record the aims of the bill and the consultation process that we undertook. It was very, very extensive. There were periods where there, a week that's dedicated with all-day meetings with stakeholders and so forth, and those submissions were received and incorporated. In light of that, I want to understand the views on what we should now do in respect of inviting comments on the bill.
Chairman, let me first of all agree with you that the process has been an extensive one. However, I think our responsibility as a Joint Select Committee has to take fully into account the critical importance, the central importance of this exercise. Firstly, because, as you rightly pointed out, we have only been able to revisit this piece of legislation after several generations, since 1941, before the war. Much has happened in the post-war world. It has been a revolution. And the objectives, I note the objectives of the legislation, what it is intended to achieve. And it is multiple and wide-ranging. Its importance, however, I think, lies in the implication for the growth and development of our economy, and by extension, impact on our social arrangements. So, singly, this has to be one of the most important pieces of legislation that have come before this Parliament, certainly in my time. And so, while taking into account all that has gone before and acknowledging that a lot of work, a lot of consultation has gone into this draft, this bill, we have to recognize that even now, after that wide-ranging consultation, I hear from stakeholder groupings their less than satisfied view about what is contained in this bill. Our intention is not to relitigate the issues. However, I believe critically for the Joint Select Committee, it is those key points that can make the difference in achieving the objectives outlined in the bill that I think we need to focus on. And the only way we can get to that is by, again, hearing from some of the key stakeholders, those who believe they have unresolved issues. This time, of course, asking them to narrow their focus so that we don't come with a laundry list of issues that have either been resolved or substantially been resolved, and so for them to come with a critical list. I believe in doing that, it can focus our attention, the work of the Joint Select Committee's attention, on what are core remaining contentious issues in the legislation as constituted, in the bill as constituted. And so I think it can focus our work, ensure that the bill, once passed, once it becomes law, it is functional and achieve the objective, because I don't think we're going to be able to disrupt this again for another several generations.
Ma'am, I'm minded to accept your proposal. I think I share your view that notwithstanding the extensive consultation period, the fact that it is now before Parliament to consider, it's important that persons feel as if they have been heard and are indeed heard and given an opportunity. So we're going to ask the Clerk of the House of Parliament to write to stakeholders, and I'll suggest a list, and I'll ask those who have other suggestions to chime in. We'd write to all of those who have consulted before, the Shipping Association of Jamaica, the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. We could write to the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica as well, the Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association of Jamaica, the Society of Customs Brokers, the Automobile Dealers Association of Jamaica, the Used Car Dealers Association, the Jamaica Higglers, Vendors and Marketers Association, the courier companies including DHL, Federal Express, maybe Tara Couriers as well, and the operators of public bonded warehouses, if there are any other suggestions.
One organization that as I listened keenly and I didn't hear, is the organization on the air side, aviation side, because it's not just the seaport important inside, it's the airports. And
no, excellent point. I don't think there's an organization. We would write to the airlines, maybe the major ones. Can you put on your mic, please?
The Board of Airline Representatives, they were consulted. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority was also consulted. So we can, right? So we can
just give us the name to add.
The names to add. Okay. So the Jamaica Civil Aviation of Jamaica, the Board of Airline Association of Jamaica, which is called BARGE. Which other? So those would be for the airline representatives on the air side. In terms of the e-commerce operators, the couriers, which was mentioned earlier, to treat with the mail pack, the ship me, those fast couriers, as well as the UPS, the DHL, the FedEx, are also entities that we would have been in consultation with and would recommend that the continued consultation be done as well.
What about the operators of the airports and operators of the ports? So the persons who operate Norman Manley and Sangsas, the persons who operate KFTL,
So the Airport Authority of Jamaica was consulted, as well as the Port Authority of Jamaica.
What about the private sector?
The private arm being the MBJ. MBJ is now the concessionaire for Kingston and Montego Bay, so that is an area that we can now engage with them in.
The private operators of the airports and ports being Kingston Wharves.
So Kingston Wharves, the Kingston Terminal Freeport Limited, we had consultation with. We continue. That is also recommended that the continued consultation be done as well.
So there's a private logistics firm, company that operates in the port. I don't remember what they call themselves.
So you have the Kingston Logistics, Kingston Logistics
yes.
Company.
Yes.
That is one of the entities that we would have called. They are among what we consider the public bonded warehouses and warehouse operators. So they were also consulted with, and the recommendation, as I suppose, to continue that consultation as well.
Okay. I'm going to ask the Commissioner to liaise with the Clerk of the Houses of Parliament, help them with their addresses, because you would have probably better access to the addresses and the contact details.
Certainly. We do have a registry with all those addresses, contact details.
Okay. Now,
I think it's important, again, for the efficient handling of the business of the Joint Select Committee, that it is, as I said before, it's not our intention to relitigate all the issues, but having made a representation for them to crystallize their remaining concerns, and it would be preferable if they can send in their documents before. So yeah.
Absolutely. So what we're asking for is there specific, we'd reference the fact that they have been consulted and they've been a part of the process, and we want in writing there any remaining specific concerns, and we should put a date by which we should receive those in writing. And with regard to the length of the bill, I would suggest that we give until the end of January. What are your thoughts on that? For written comments.
That's reasonable. They would have been, they would not, it's not the first set of consultation. They would not be unfamiliar with the bill and the process. And so all we're asking for is to distill the remaining issues. And they ought to be able to do that fairly quickly.
I'm not sure. There's a question. In the consultation that took place before, did we include the non or not-for-profit organizations, like say JCC? I mean, they do a lot of medical missions and normally have a lot of custom-related issues. Was that considered?
When you say JCC, are you referring to the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce? Council of Churches? No.
It's a good point that a lot of charitable organizations interface with customs, and there have been instances, you're aware, in the last at least 12, 15 months where you've had one or two of them, shout out some of the challenges that we're facing, that once you got into contact with them, you're able to resolve quickly. I don't know what the umbrella organization, you couldn't pick one or two of them. I don't know what the umbrella organization is. Is there an umbrella organization of charities?
There's a Department for Friendly Society that gives the charitable statuses to these organizations, and we normally work in collaboration with them on various engagement. But outside of the individual charities, no.
Okay, that's a regulator.
Right, that's a regulator.
I can't think of an umbrella organization of charities. And so failing that would...
Some voluntary organizations or...
They're individual voluntary organizations, but is there a representative group? Yeah, but what we're going to do though, sorry, I'm reminded, with the permission of the committee, we'll put advertisements in both newspapers inviting members of the public. So any organization or any individual can respond. Yeah, it's a catch-all. So with your permission, we will have advertisements in the papers as soon as possible, and have those advertisements run, say, twice, asking for comments on the bill prior to the deadline of January 31st, written comments.
Just thinking of like radio. I think GIS runs a program, and you could utilize that, because there's some story, I don't know whether it's true or not, that if you want to hide anything from a Jamaican, put it in writing. I don't know.
You are the man of letters. Yeah, let's see if we can get it on radio as well, through GIS. That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you. Okay, so it's now for us to discuss dates of subsequent meetings.
Chairman, could we, I think, given the scope of the bill and the nature and the work to be done, I think we'll have to again, to be efficient, we may have to plan some retreat, 2-day retreats. I mean, the other times I've participated in large bills of this kind. I remember the Shipping Act, when that was being addressed, another sort of similar vintage act, they had to retreat for a day or two. It doesn't have to be anywhere. It could be in Kingston somewhere where it's convenient for
Yeah, no, I agree.
most people.
Particularly when we're hearing, if we invite persons who submit written comments to appear before the committee, it would be useful to deal with them en bloc, and that might be facilitated in a retreat-like setting. Of course, the members of the technical members who are providing technical support to the committee, AG, CPC, Customs, Ministry of Finance, sometimes these weekend retreats can inconvenience them. So we just seek to find a happy medium. But I agree with you that efficiency is served by dealing with those who have comments, having them appear en bloc, and so we'll take that into consideration. And I was about to say that I don't think we're in a position to set the next dates just now. I would ask your forbearance for us to see the volume of comments that we have coming in by January 31st, and then we would seek to set the dates afterwards. And before email goes around with the date, I undertake that I'll get in contact with you to ensure it works for you, okay? Okay, any other business that we should be undertaking at this first meeting of the committee?
Members? Perhaps we've done what we can do in terms of first meeting, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Well, with that, I'm going to move a motion for the adjournment of the meeting. Seconded by Member Hilton. All in favor? All right, the meeting is adjourned. May I take the opportunity to wish members of the Hansard writing staff, members of the Attorney General's Chambers, of the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, of the Ministry of Finance, of the Jamaica Customs Agency, and of course, members of the committee. All that is good for the holiday season, and we look forward to convening again in the new year to continue the review of this bill.
Thank you, Chairman. I just add the staff of the Parliament, the clerk and everybody else, and the press.
And seconded. Thank you, member. Thank you all very much.
Good.